Now, I was never Jehovah's Witness, but I did spend 10 years in a controversial Korean Doomsday Cult known as the WMSCOG, or World Mission Society Church of God. But I have talked to a lot of former ex-Jehovah's Witness members, and the similarities are striking, especially when it comes to the fear, the guilt, the shame, and the shunning when members decide to leave the organization. And so I wanted to make this video coming at it from a different high control group Doomsday Cult perspective, but also I think it's interesting learning about other Doomsday cults, especially American Doomsday cults. So you're going to get a Jehovah's Witness commentary, but from a ex-Korean Doomsday Cult member. So I think it should be interesting. Let's check it out. Because at the end of the day, whether it's World Mission Society Church of God, Jehovah's Witnesses, Shincheonji, or any other Korean Doomsday Cult or American Doomsday Cult, even though different doctrines, different beliefs, same tactics, same fear, same pain, same shame. So today I want to kind of analyze how hard it must be for a Jehovah's Witness to leave the organization, but we're going to examine it through my lens, which is from a different high demand group, another Doomsday Cult. Now, I would argue one of the similar teachings that I was taught as a WMSCOG member is very similar to how the Jehovah's Witnesses understand their organization, right? All the other churches are corrupt, right? The world itself is evil and corrupt, and they are the only truth that is on the earth, the only light in the darkness, if you will. And you must go to their organization and have their approved leaders and their approved narrative in order to have salvation for your soul. And any deviance from that organization, those leaders, means that your soul is sick, your soul is in jeopardy, and if you leave completely, your soul is therefore dead. So I would argue that being part of a Jehovah's Witness, from what I can see and what I can relate to, it's not just a church, it's your identity, it's your life, it's your culture. Your friends that you're allowed to hang out with are mostly witnesses. Very similar to what I was experiencing. Your social life revolves only around the organization, only around the narrative of the organization. You're only allowed to think what the organization wants you to think about. You can only speak about what the organization and the narrative allows you to speak about. You don't want to be worldly. You want to speak about heavenly things because you're in God's place. This belief system defines your morality. It defines your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, everything about you. In my former church, even though it's completely different teaching, it was the exact same way. This organization dictated everything that I was allowed to think, feel, see, hear, and do. And when I left my organization, it didn't feel like I was just leaving the doctrine. It felt like I was literally leaving my life behind. It felt like I was leaving my family. It felt like I was literally leaving my identity in the doorway. Because when you leave an organization like this, you don't just lose your belief system, you lose everything. And I mean everything. So even though some people may say, you're just leaving a church, what's the big deal? But to us, you're leaving your entire world behind, and that is extremely painful and it's terrifying. But this primal fear that you feel when you leave, it didn't just happen overnight. You don't just randomly have this fear. This fear has been built up, has been propped up over years and years of fear-mongering, over propaganda. Armageddon is just around the corner, right? In my organization, we were waiting for An Sang-hong, who is the Korean second coming Jesus, to come and destroy the world. And the righteous, the holy, the chosen organization, the 144,000, the elect, were going to remain, right? And be taken up with God, right? Very similar to the Jehovah's Witness teaching. I mean, of course, some of the nuances are slightly different, but the same premise. Every day could be doomsday. Every day can be Armageddon. Every day could be the last day. Have you done enough? Are you good enough? Have you done what the organization wants you to do? Have you done what the leaders have asked you to do? You have this promise of peace, but all you feel is inner turmoil. You don't feel like you're enough. You're depressed. you're lonely, even though you're surrounded by people, and you have no hope for heaven, you don't want to live, and you're too terrified to die. So when this fear is connected to your survival, that's why leaving the organization basically feels like self-destruction. And this fear of not only physical destruction, but also fear of hell for going against the truth, for going against the narrative that's been spun by these organizations, God's true church on earth, the fear of burning in hell forever and ever and ever for leaving the only true organization and turning your back on Jehovah, or in our case, An Sang Hong. That fear is another level of fear that is hard to explain unless you've actually gone through it yourself. And so you can kind of see why it would be extremely hard to leave such an organization, especially if you're generational. Especially if you've had parents, grandparents, great-grandparents in the organization, it would be very, very difficult for you to leave. Not only that, but a lot of the fear comes with the aftermath of leaving said organization. That fear, unfortunately, is just the beginning, because not only do you have the fear of Armageddon, the fear of hell, but you also have the intense fear of being shunned by those who you've served with for decades, of those you've considered family, you've considered friends, leaders whom you've followed for years or decades, co-workers who have been preaching door to door by your side, who have gone through snowy weather, hot temperatures, being persecuted, being slandered, being beaten, all for when you leave and you decide to disband from the organization. Because as soon as you leave the organization, those that you considered family, friends, leaders, co-workers, etc., it's over. The shunning commences. You are now a problem that must be dealt with. You are now gangrene, and you can't go near the other flock because they're going to get gangrene. It's going to spread, right? Don't you know just a little yeast works through the whole batch, right? So as soon as you start doubting, as soon as you take that leap and you leave and you dissent from the organization, the shunning begins. No one's allowed to contact you. No one's allowed to hang out with you. No one's allowed to even speak to you, let alone be in your presence, because, let's face it, you've gone the way of Cain. You've gone the way of Satan. You've gone the way of Demas. You've gone the way of the apostates, the betrayers, right? Does this sound familiar? Because this is exactly how I felt and how I was treated when I left my high demand control group. And here's the worst part. The people that are shunning you and doing these kind of things, isolating you, they're made to believe that this is righteous love, righteous indignation, and that it is good. And that it's good for you, it's good for them, it's saving your soul, and it's protecting their soul. Which, in that kind of framing, this abandonment and isolation and harsh treatment allows the leaders to still feel righteous for doing so, and the members who carry it out to also feel righteous for doing so as well. So I hope I was able to paint a picture as to why it's so hard to leave the Jehovah's Witness, because I experienced it firsthand myself, leaving the World Mission Society Church of God. Because I experienced that shunning, that demonizing, that slandering, that dragging my name through the mud and calling me all sorts of things that aren't true, etc. The list goes on and on and on, and I'm sure you can relate to a lot of that as well. But just remember, leaving is not about weakness. It's about walking away from a corrupt system that tied your safety, community, and even your identity to obedience. And as soon as your obedience stopped, they took everything away. Or even if you're someone from another high control group, because unfortunately, there's not a shortage of them. You're not crazy for finding it hard or even thinking it's impossible for leaving such a group. Your brain is literally wired to survive. And your survival, you think, is attached to this organization, and that is what they want you to think. But the best thing for your survival is actually to leave. I personally would rather go through a year or even 10 years of agonizing pain to experience freedom the rest of my life than to live comfortably the rest of my life, but be under the thumb of an organization that I'm expendable, they don't care about me, and everything I have is tied to the obedience of that organization. Now, if you got something out of today's video and you're watching till now, I appreciate you, and I'm so glad that you chose to watch my video. For those that have continued watching and are here with me till the end of the video, I really appreciate you. On the screen, there's going to be a playlist for WMSCOG Survivor Stories, which is the cult I came from, and I have a bunch of them there. Please go check those out so that way you can hear other stories like mine. And also on the screen, you're going to have a recommended video, so please check that one out as well. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.